Hi, everyone. We have a great show today with Stephen Cook. He's a serial entrepreneur, and we talk about all things Columbia restaurants. And he talks about Saluda's, how that was his first one, and then his most recent one, Amber, which is a steakhouse in Lexington, and what the Columbia market looks like. So I hope you enjoy. Thanks for listening.
This episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Warren and Dillon, the Midland's trusted personal injury lawyers. Here's some great advice from our sponsor.
Hey there, Brett Warren with Warren and Dillon. I wanted to talk to you today about some of the biggest mistakes you can make when it comes to dealing with insurance companies. I think one of them is giving a recorded statement to the insurance company. The problem is that the insurance companies, they're doing these recorded statements to help their case and to hurt yours. And so they're going to ask some sneaky questions that are designed to hurt your case. One quick example, they'll ask how many feet away you were from the other car when you first noticed them. Nobody really knows the answer to that. But what they're going to do is they're going to say, hey, you should have noticed that other car, and now you're 20% at fault. So do yourself a favor, just don't do it or talk to a lawyer first. Trusted advice, proven results, Warren and Dillon.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Here for the Health of It podcast. I'm Dr. Randy, here with Dr. Tom, as always, and we have a great show today. We have a serial entrepreneur, a restaurateur, Stephen Cook. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, glad to be here.
So you own several businesses. Mm-hmm. You own Saluda's, which is a great upscale restaurant in like around 5 Points.
Yep, correct. Yep.
And then you own Il Boccato and Arroyo.
Also in 5 Points.
Yeah, also in 5 Points. And then you own Ember, which is a new steakhouse in Lexington.
Correct, yes. Just opened that one.
And you're also the COO of Foundry Hospitality.
Correct, yeah. So Saluda's kind of got me started in the business. I bought it when I was 26 years old, worked there in college, and kind of I was trying to figure out a way to get into the restaurant business. And left for 2 years and came back and ended up buying it. I didn't have any money or anything. I just knew where all the bodies were buried, and they let me in the door, and the rest is history, I guess. And so operated that for a while, and then just started opening new restaurants around 2020. We started doing new stuff. That's how long it takes to finally
figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yes. And tell us about how the owner came to you to buy this upscale restaurant.
Yeah, so I tell this story a lot to people who want to get in the restaurant business or really own any business. I worked there in college. I was a server, worked my way up to manager, bartender, all that, and decided I wanted to get in the restaurant business and left because the owner was not a good owner. He was one of those restaurant owners. The restaurant business is very cash flow intensive, and there's lots of booze around and all that. So I left. I couldn't take it anymore. Went and worked for Harper's Restaurant, if you remember that, in 5 Points, and got some kind of corporate experience. And then when it came back around, he wanted to leave, or it was time for him to leave, I kind of was able to slide in there just because I was in the right place at the right time and had put in all those years of sort of experience. They didn't want to change the name. They didn't want to change anything. And so I was able to transition it and spend the next 2-3 years kind of bringing it back up to where it needed to be. And now I think it's, one of the best restaurants in Columbia, and we've had lots of success.
Yeah. So the owner didn't get along with you very well, it sounds like, or you didn't necessarily...
Yeah, it wasn't a super professional environment. And so I left, and they kind of...
There was a lot of drinking behind the scenes on the staff.
All that stuff had caught up to them eventually, and then it was like, hey, we got to get out, and I was able to slide in there. Like I said, 26 years old. I did not have any money to speak of. I think I got a $25,000 loan from my dad, and that's not a lot of money to start a restaurant, certainly. So we just got in there. Both the coolers were broken, the Balkan coolers. We spent, the first year just figuring everything out, and then, had more money all of a sudden than we ever knew we'd know what to do with. And I look back and it was nothing. It was absolutely no money at all. But
you're paying your bills at least.
That's right. I was working for my wife was pregnant. We dropped our insurance because we were moving from a corporate to this. It was a really big, it's almost like a lot of times you're just too young and stupid to realize how bad of a decision that you're making, but it all kind of worked out. So
he called you and said, hey, I want to sell the business.
Yeah.
And I've decided that this 26-year-old guy with no money is the person to buy it.
Yeah, I think it was, again, right place, right time. I think it was an easier transition than to, hey, let's shut this down, go find a buyer and see who wants to do it. It was kind of like we took over August 1st, 2006, and just immediately, we just literally just switched over the next day. So much so, like a month later, the business license people called us and they're like, "Hey, are y'all new people?" And we're like, "Oh yeah, we were supposed to do that." We didn't even know. So it was
So
literally
cool.
just a turnkey turnkey acquisition for us.
Yes. Today's episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Columbia Family Chiropractic, with 3 easy-to-get-to locations, one in Forest Acres, which is by Trader Joe's, one in O'Neill Court by the DMV, and one in the Northeast by Sand Hills. You'll be sure to have somewhere near you. They offer a ton of services from corrective care, on-site digital x-rays, spinal decompression for bulging or herniated discs, dry needling for injuries, pediatric care, and a Class 4 laser. They accept all your major insurances. And if you mention this ad, you'll get a discount on your first appointment. Check out their website at cfc4health.com or Google Columbia Family Chiropractic. That's cfc4health.com. What did that feel like walking into new staff as a 26-year-old that you're not used to being the boss of?
I mean, being a restaurant manager and a restaurant owner are not that different. There's a lot of, my function now, like, I don't know a lot of our employees. So our managers are more in tune with the day-to-day operations than I am as an owner. So it wasn't as hard of a transition as you might think. It was just that at the end of the day, when the bills have to be paid, you're the one that everybody's looking at. So, but it wasn't that hard of a transition. It was a fun time. I guess it was stressful, but I don't really remember it being that bad. It was just life.
Yep.
My wife is the greatest woman in the world. She put up with it for a long, long time until we finally, my job functions more like a 9 to 5 in the past 10 years or so. And, I always like to say, everybody says restaurants are super difficult. I like to run it like a widget factory. Like it doesn't matter what you're producing. You're bringing customers in, you're trying to satisfy them, and you're trying to bring them back. So it doesn't have to be rocket science.
Yes.
Yeah. And the list of restaurants you have are top notch. That's
thank you.
incredible how you've done that. What was your education and background? Did you go to culinary school? Do you have a college degree?
No, I can cook for us, but if you ask me to cook for 20 people, I'm clueless. I have no idea. I've never really worked in the back of the house. I started working as a server. I got a job with Tony Hanna, who's a commercial real estate guy around here. He started Pasta Fresca. So there was a Pasta Fresca down the street from Irmo High School, and I walked in there. He came out wearing a backwards hat and apron. He's like, hey, and like basically pitched me on the fact, like, don't you want to walk into these parties at your high school an hour late, but with a big stack of money in your pocket? Right. So I started serving, and, I was making $100 a night in 1997 as a high school kid. And I was like, this is a pretty good. I mean, I was making more money my freshman year in college waiting tables than my friends were that had already graduated.
Yeah.
And so it was just, sometimes I think a lot of people get wrapped in that server bartender stuff. I have plenty of people that graduate and don't leave because they just can't find a job where they're going to make as much money. So anyway, I really fell in love with sort of the restaurant sort of experience. I think before that, I wanted to be a stockbroker. That's what I went to school for, with financial consultant, I guess is what they call it now. And I think I just wanted to wear nice clothes and make a lot of money. And the restaurant,
chicks.
yeah, exactly. But I thought, drinking wine at a really nice bar, and I love hotels and traveling and things like that. It just kind of, that's what I'm interested in. That's what I like. So.
What are the biggest pitfalls in the restaurant business? I mean, and I don't know much about it, but everybody says the margins are so tight in the restaurant space that you have to really keep an eye on everything to start rolling profit.
Well, I think that's kind of a big part of it is the margins aren't necessarily smaller than any other business. I mean, we're very cash flow intensive though, right?
Yeah.
So, I have friends that are contractors and they're like, man, it must be nice to get paid every day for the work that you do, we don't have anybody that owes us money. We get paid every single day. So if you don't manage that correctly, then you run out of money really quick because it's in the bank and then it flows right back out. So I think that the biggest part is people get into the restaurant business. They say there's a high failure rate. I think it's because people get in undercapitalized and underexperienced. And if you don't have some capital reserves to kind of make it through the bad times or whatever. Right. And by the way, I had none of that when we started. I mean, I learned this all the hard way. I don't know what I'm talking about. I think people have to touch the hot stove to figure out if it's hot, and not get told it. So I think that's the biggest problem is just undercapitalization and not knowing what you're getting into. I just hate when I hear like, hey, I'm a retired insurance guy and I always wanted to get in the restaurant business and now we're going to buy a restaurant. I'm like, please don't do that, unless it's a true passion because your passion will turn into pain very quickly.
Right. Yep.
And I've been dreaming of Columbia having nice restaurants that aren't fast food chain restaurants.
Sure, yeah.
It's one of the biggest culture shocks that I had when I moved here was everywhere you go, there's a McDonald's and a Five Guys and a whatever, but the the like family owned or locally owned businesses just didn't seem like they were here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of them. I think Columbia has this weird inferiority complex, right? We're in between Charleston and Greenville. We're constantly compared to those two, especially Charleston. I mean, Charleston might as well be Manhattan.
Yeah.
The restaurant quality there is as good as anywhere in the world, I would say. And so there's this sort of inferiority complex that we can do things in Columbia, but not quite to that level. And I kind of, our whole, as we are starting to expand and open more restaurants, like our whole philosophy is we can take any of our restaurants and drop them in Charlotte, Charleston, New York, and they would not be out of place. So, I think Columbia, it's almost, sometimes people will come in and they go, well, a steakhouse in Lexington might not work because there's none out there. Well, that's the whole point. There's not one there. You haven't given people the opportunity to have that top of market experience. And that's kind of what we're focused on doing.
Yeah, nice.
And we drove there too.
Yeah,
from the Northeast to Lexington.
Thank
to go.
you. Yeah. That was never our thought that we were going to have that kind of like commute for people. But I mean, I have people I live downtown. People tell me, "Oh, no, we drove out there." I'm like,
yeah,
great, we'll take it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. When you're determined to make a restaurant, what are the things that you're thinking about? Do you decide on food first? Do you decide on location? Do you decide on vibe? Like, what's the process look like?
It's all of it. It's all of it. I mean, it's like probably like writing a song or something. You might come up with we're doing the next restaurant we're doing is a seafood concept, and we at first it was an oyster bar, right? Like you go to Charleston, there's 10 of these oyster bars, you can't get in. There's nothing like that in Columbia. So a lot of it is when I travel, I'll see like, why does this not exist where I'm at? And then that metamorphosized into, as we kind of started going down the track of opening this place, that there's no top of the line seafood restaurant in Columbia. If you said, hey, what's the best seafood restaurant in Columbia? You'd say, oh, the halibut at Saluta's is great, or the flounder at Terra is great. Yeah, but you're not gonna say there's a preeminent restaurant. So that's what we've kind of focused on. So a lot of it is, what do you want to do? What makes you happy? Yep. What do you think that people will like? And then you get into it and it changes a little bit as you go forward. And a lot of that adapts to the real estate, to the location, right? Sure. Like you can't shove a square peg into a round hole. So it's all those things at once. Yeah.
Are you guys buying the real estate when you set these restaurants up, or are you doing more of a lease structure?
Sometimes, for the most part, it's lease. And a lot of times, I've got a lot of friends that in the restaurant business, and they won't do anything unless they own it. They like that real estate play. If you lease, you keep your cash a lot freer. You're able to expand faster, and that's what we're focused on right now, is opening more restaurants versus being in the real estate business. But sometimes things will pop up where we have the option to acquire the real estate. We do.
Nice. And then where are you looking for chefs? So the seafood concept. Yep. Where do you then find the chef that can do an upscale seafood?
So we're lucky enough to have a great, part of why we formed this bigger, broader hospitality company is that it's kind of, you have a bigger talent pool to choose from. And so a lot of times the fact that we have multiple restaurants, everybody that works for us has multiple people that they know. And so it's able to kind of bring that ecosystem. And also, we had Saluta's in 2020 when we started to do new restaurants. And a lot of it was because we had this talent that had a ceiling. And your general manager, if you can only have one restaurant, I mean, he's gone soon if he's talented, right? And so, we have Andrew Thompson, who's been the GM at Saluta's forever, and he's so great. We had to give him other things to do. And that's a blessing to have those people. But I think anytime you want to grow a business from whether it's one location to 10 or just want to expand a current location, that's being almost like a fertile sort of farm ground for talent is good. And then, like for the chef at Ember, we went out and interviewed a bunch of people and found somebody that fit our ideals. And so depending on, where it is, like the seafood restaurants downtown, so we'll be able to do a lot of, not borrowing from, but like our executive chef at Saluta's will likely take over as executive chef there. And again, build his, everybody kind of gets to move up in this thing. And so that's the beauty of it, is you're not just doing it by yourself.
Are you revealing where this is going to be located and name or any of that yet?
Almost. It'll be downtown, very close to Saluta's. We're about to start swinging hammers, and that's when we'll announce it. So
that's awesome.
We're trying to. These take a long time, right? And so like we'll get this one started, and then we'll immediately start on the next one, because they might take 2 years. And so if we try to open one every year or 2 years, that's kind of the process. So.
That's awesome.
Y'all will be the first to know. I'll tell you when we get off.
Yeah, we'll announce it on Columbia's Hottest podcast.
Yeah.
Now, what about the Northeast space? Because we're begging for restaurants out here.
Yeah. So I opened a restaurant in the Northeast a long time ago where the ratio was.
Yeah.
It was called And the pitch was that it was, 15 miles away and, great demographics, and it might as well have been on the moon for me at that time. Completely different staffs. And so basically I just split myself in half. Now that we've made the jump to kind of go to Lexington and open some stuff like that, we may do that. We may look at right now we're focused downtown, but the next, hey, who knows? It really, like you said,
something out here. Yeah.
I mean, like you said, sometimes it's seeing that need.
Yeah.
And then you find the perfect spot, and then it all kind of comes together.
Right.
So it's almost never are we just like, hey, I'm going to open a hamburger restaurant in the Northeast. Let's go. It's more about letting that concept kind of organically develop, if that makes sense.
That's cool.
When I was in Ember, we were at our friend Melinda's birthday party. So we were in the side room.
Okay, yeah.
There, yeah.
But when I walked to the bathroom and back, I noticed couples everywhere. Some were holding hands, some were like kissing. They were sitting right beside each other. It seems like a good date spot.
Absolutely,
to me,
yeah.
Which is what, to Tom's point, like there's not really a date spot in the Northeast. Like if
Sure,
somebody was going to go for a date, they would need to go downtown or to Lexington. Yeah. So if you can bring one here, we would love it.
Hey,
We
that's
would
good.
frequent
That's
it.
good market research. Yeah.
It's good.
And then the pizza place. So tell us, I mean, because that's a whole different
That was
animal, I feel
a
like.
weird one. So we started developing that in my neighborhood, really close to where I live, and we kind of saw this whole where, hey, like it's Tuesday night, your kid has practice, we got homework to do.
right.
What are we gonna eat? And pizza's I owned Saluda's for 20 years. We served great food, and my kids were more excited when we opened the pizza restaurant than anything else we did.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit, and that is we adapted a former dry cleaning space. It's like 700 square feet.
Yeah.
It's takeout only, no dine in, and it kind of ended up being the perfect thing for that time. And it was a nice distraction in the middle of 2020 trying to build that place. Instead of hiding in the closet like you kind of wanted to do sometimes. But that is just the idea was, why can't you do pizza that's completely from scratch?
Right.
Instead of having everything out of a can or a jar or frozen. And we found out that most people don't do it is because it's really hard. It's a lot harder to make everything from scratch, but we like to think it's a great product. So
I feel like that place crushes. Every time I'm there, it's just order after order, just stacking.
Yeah, the
And
biggest.
who's the main pizza guy there?
Manny was.
He's unreal.
He's great. I mean, the guy's. It's just that space is 700 square feet. You turn on 3 pizza ovens, and it's very, very. So
Sauna.
we actually have it down right now for some renovations. We're going to kind of go back in. We've been open 5 years. We've sold thousands and thousands of pizzas out of there. So we're going to go back and refresh that space a little bit and kind of optimize it. We've learned a lot of stuff over 5 years, but again, we like to think it's a good product that people really like. Yeah.
Yeah, we have our chiropractic businesses, and it's always been a question of, do you keep doing what you're really good at, or do you keep changing and modifying what you're doing? So in your case, you keep going to different types of food. You're staying in the restaurant world, it sounds like, but you're doing different types of food versus opening a second Saluda's or a Saluda's in Charleston or Charlotte, like you're bringing up. So is there a process that you went through and decided I'd be too bored if I had 14 Saludas?
Well, I mean, I don't know that Saluda's works anywhere else. I don't know that I think it just is what it is. Maybe it does, but sometimes you have these fine dining restaurants that are a little more one-off, right? They're just they live in the space, they are of the space, and if you try to duplicate it, it doesn't quite work. I think we've all been in restaurants that like had one flagship, and you go to the second one, you're like, this is not the same. Yeah. It's like a facsimile, like you're at Disney World, like the brick's all fake or something. And we are, to be honest with you, like a lot of the things we've done, there was no grand plan. A lot of it was a shotgun approach. We've just now, got some partners and founded this hospitality group where they have a lot of experience in like the franchise space, where they, we're starting to do some, acquisitions of things that are like more franchisey, the things that you hate, the corporate stuff, where there's a bunch of them, but there's a reason why they work. There's a lot of them that have good plans. And so that's a stack of our business. And then I'm kind of doing all the white tablecloth stuff. And I realized that the pizza place, although it's great, that's not really my passion. My passion is kind of like Ember, Saluda's, the full service, try to top of the market, for lack of a better term. And that's kind of what I'm focused on going forward. But the idea is maybe we get one of these and it catches fire. Maybe Ember becomes the kind of a Halls type 5 to 7 locations.
Yeah.
And you just kind of never know till you get in there and see what exactly works.
Yeah.
What are the main numbers that you're looking at in the restaurant space? Like when you're looking at your dashboard to know and to be able to look at all of these on a global scale, what are those main key
I feel like it's the same as everybody. It's labor and cost of goods.
Yeah.
And cost of goods for a restaurant is, especially like a fine dining or a restaurant with a broader menu, that's a little, that can get out of control fast, because a lot of it is beyond our control. I have no control over what a prime tenderloin costs. So you have to kind of do a lot of due diligence in making sure that your cost structure is there. And then, the labor part, there's this old thing, and they say the restaurant business is probably every business that, sales cures everything.
Yeah.
You have high enough sales, then you're not really worried. The labor takes care of itself. You're only really grinding on the labor if your sales are down. And so it's finding that the biggest thing, like everybody, is trying to drive that top line revenue, and then just getting your labor and sale cost of goods under control.
Down.
Typically, they're like 33% of on each category, right? And so the rule of thumb is 30% cost of goods, 30% labor, 30% overhead, 10% profit. You can get up to 28, 35% profit if you've got the right concept. Your labor is low enough, or you're selling. There's a reason why there's a lot of Italian restaurants and Chinese food restaurants. The cost of goods is pretty low on rice and pasta, so. It's all that secret sauce of figuring out what it is. And then you got a steakhouse that might run 50% food cost because of the inherent cost of a lot of that stuff. So,
Do you watch a lot of those shows like Gordon Ramsay, Kitchen Nightmares, and all that?
I used to. I watched a lot of like Top Chef when it first came out. The first like 7-8 seasons, I would watch that like religiously. Didn't watch a lot for like 10 years, and then now I like watching the Gordon Ramsay stuff for comedy. I mean, I just think it's funny, And you also like with that Kitchen Nightmare show that he does. You would be shy. You could walk into take any 10 restaurants within 2 miles of here. You could do that.
See a lot of that. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, there's just so much mismanagement in the restaurant business. It seems like it's a hard business. There's a lot of hours and things like that. And I think sometimes people it's good enough. And if you're a guy like Gordon Ramsay or whatever, you kind of see all that efficiency and you want to correct it as fast as possible.
Would you say, like, when your team sees you rolling through the restaurant, do they, like, what's their vibe for you? Do you come in and Gordon Ramsay them ever? Or?
No, absolutely not. I have never, well, not never, but certainly now in this phase of our sort of my career, I'm never going to light up a server or a cook or anything like that. I'll light up the managers if they need to get lit up, and that is not how I run restaurants at all. I mean, I'm nice to a fault probably, right? I almost like to think people learn better through their failures than their successes, and, let somebody pursue an idea that you might not think is the greatest. And sometimes they work out and sometimes they fail like you thought they did. And you go, hey, see, I told you, like, let's revisit that. So I'd like to order food anonymously in the restaurant. Like I'll try to, and then somehow like, hey, put this in this bar seat and send this to me. And then somehow it comes out bigger than it's supposed to be or whatever. I want to have what everybody's having. And so I have to secret shop, even when
dress
I'm
up.
Yeah.
Just put a wig on.
Yeah. But I get feedback constantly from friends and acquaintances. And sometimes you don't know if you're getting the real feedback, and like with the new restaurant Ember, we would send people in and we'd like, please give us your hypercritical stuff. And that's what we would provide feedback to them. Is like, hey, everything's good. The potatoes are gratin is too gooey or whatever it is. And that's the kind of granular stuff that you really should be focused on. Because if you're walking in there and going, the place is dirty and the service is terrible, like you've already failed to a certain extent.
Yeah. I'm that friend for sure in the chiropractic space. I love walking in and critiquing.
Yeah. And it's good to hear feedback like that from people who know what they're talking about. I had somebody who came in that would come in all the time. They would always send me a note like, hey, I ordered this drink and I thought it was a little too sweet. I'm like, that's not the feedback I'm looking for. Like your personal taste is not exactly, but hey, how can we make that experience better? Because I try to tell our managers all the time, and I try to do this, go sit in the chair and look around, because you get focused on what exactly, because you get focused on some of the day-to-day and running around, and you don't get that same customer experience. And every business should do that, right? Whether you're running retail or restaurant, put yourself in the customer's shoes and see what they're looking at.
Yep.
Now I'm curious about the alcohol sales, because I keep hearing that Gen Z doesn't drink. Have you found that to be true over the last 20 years?
No, I mean, our customer base is probably more 30 to 50, right? And so we haven't seen that. I mean, I'll be, I read a decent amount of trade publications, and there's people that are freaked out about it. I mean, some of these big companies are absolutely freaking out when you see that, like, alcohol consumption among people that are 20 to 25 is down like 65%. I mean, that's a real stat. I mean, it sounds crazy. I want to feel like we're somewhat protected in our fine dining space, in the sense of like, yeah, you might not be going out and hammering down 12 high noons on the golf course like I might do in about an hour and a half. But you're probably going to still get into wine. You're still going to have a cocktail, that kind of thing. So, but the broader big companies, they're extremely scared about it. It's one of the reasons why they're trying to move into that CBD space and all that.
Yep.
Are restaurants doing that? I was wondering about that. If
We
they're
sell.
offering-
One of my partners is really big into that. Doesn't drink any alcohol, and he drinks the CBD drinks, and so we serve them at Ember. I've tried to do that. I can't do it. I can't. Just give me a martini, and that's fine with me. But I think that will grow more and more. Over the next few years. Not something we're making a transition to. I've noticed like we'll see micro trends, like wine got big and then wine's shrinking back, and cocktails are huge now. And it varies location to location. People in Lexington drink a lot of liquor. They didn't know that was the sales mix. How could we know until we did it for 6 weeks?
Right.
And that's what we're discovering, is the liquor sales over there are higher for whatever reason.
Nice.
Wow.
So you're going golfing today? The Quixote Club. Are you a member out there?
Yeah, I'm a member at Quixote, and I'm going to play at Wood Creek, where I'm a member there too. So that's my in-town
nice.
club. So I love Quixote's great. It's a little bit of a hike, but it's a special place.
I got to play it my first time a couple weeks ago, and it was I was just blown away. I was like, "Where are we?"
Yeah,
you pull through the
great,
gates, and it's like, this is nice.
Well, you got a
club.
Those clubs are popping up more and more around South Carolina, and I love golf. I also think that is really a tangential thing to hospitality, right? I mean, it's the kind of club that you're rolling in and you're taken care of. People like, hello, let me help you with your bags. Let me get you something to drink. And that's part of the golf experience that I really also enjoy is that it is hospitality related. And that's the difference between the low end and the high end stuff.
Right. And we were kind of talking about this because we're both from the North, and the clubs in the North, they have to be dynamite hospitality. There are clubs down here where it's open year round. The restaurants aren't great. They don't even have food sometimes at the turn. And you just see this massive gap in trying to figure out how like the local place can just increase that. Like, why not just have...
Well, I think that a lot of people, I find the same thing in hotels.
Yeah.
Sometimes you go to these, Columbia has anybody who I know who owns hotels, don't be mad at me, but Columbia's like the worst.
We know Hotel Trundle.
Yeah, Trundle's great, but they're a little boutique hotel. They're not full service.
Right.
They don't have there's no Ritz-Carlton, there's no Four Seasons. We're a little town, I get that, but like the hoteliers will tell you that the hospitality restaurant space is a completely different business.
Right.
And so you have to either invest a lot into it and control that part and be just as good as that as you are making the beds and having it clean as you are the restaurant part. Same thing with a golf course. I mean, if that's not your focus, I don't play a lot of public golf courses anymore.
Right.
But not because I'm above that or anything. I'm just lucky enough to get invited to a lot of places. And you go to that public experience sometimes, and you just feel like it's like the Walmart of golf, where you're like, hey, if you want beer, here's a bucket full of or a bag full of ice. And I do think it depends on the owner of the club or the club membership. Like, do they put a focus on that or not?
Right.
Yes. Where's your favorite course you've ever played?
Probably Congaree. Probably Congaree down in Low State. I really love the Ocean Course. I love Erin Hills in Wisconsin. That was a really great place. But I played Congaree about 6 months ago, and that place blew me away. It's unbelievable.
Really?
I've never played. Have you played
I
there?
haven't played it, but I hear.
They had a tour event down there 2 years ago or so, and it's just amazing. It's one of those kind of like Quixote. It's a natural, like there's greens and fairways, but then everything else is kind of untouched, and you kind of feel like you're, going into your own little wonderland, and that's not cheap to do. That's those private clubs have a high price for a reason. It's an expensive proposition.
I love what they did with Wood Creek too.
Yeah, Wood Creek's
taking
great.
out all the trees and all.
Yeah,
that.
Harold Pickerel, who owns it, put a lot of money back. A lot of times these private golf courses they call it a benevolent dictator in a lot of spots. You need somebody with deep pockets who really cares about it and is not using it as a money-making venture necessarily, because a lot of the stuff you put into a golf course is not making you money right back.
Yeah.
But Wood Creek's been great. They just signed up a deal to have 5 years of a Corn Ferry Tour event out there. So that'll be an exciting thing, not only for the club, but also for Columbia. I think it'll bring a lot of attention to the city as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was curious about your interviewing process. Like, do you have teams that interview people separately, and what does that look like so that you get that good customer service and hospitality aspect?
Yeah, I totally leave the hiring up to our managers. I mean, obviously I'll hire the managers, but I think that it's very important for the people that are managing you on a day-to-day basis to be the one that hire you. If I said, hey, this guy's great, let's hire him.
Right.
You know, if you called and said, I got a cousin who's I'm never going to push them into one of our restaurants. And it sounds lame, but it really is true. Like it's the culture that builds within the building. And, you know, especially Saludas is sort of the template. It's been the one that's there the longest. And we hire somebody and they come in because everybody can interview, or not everybody, but, you know, you can get through an interview and then not be the real deal. But they're found out really quick, not by the managers, but by the other staff, you know? So there's that high level of sort of expectation that the staff almost enforces. And again, we like to think we've built a culture where there's not really, if somebody stands out, the staff is going to let them stand out. There's almost self-policing, if that makes sense.
Do you remember the very first person that you had to fire?
I don't remember the first person I had to fire.
Or is there one that stands out?
Yeah, a guy spit at me once.
What?
Yeah.
Tell us that story.
I mean, I came in.
I wasn't expecting that.
I don't even remember the reason. It was just kind of like, hey man, like this happened and we've told you about that and like I'm gonna have to let you go. And he hocked the loogie at me.
Whoa.
Missed me, and I was like, get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know. You know, part of you says, well, I would beat the hell out of somebody if they did that to me. Well, you're an owner of a restaurant. You know, you
can't. Yeah.
And I was completely shocked.
100%.
Completely shocked. But most people I've found, even if people that you terminate, I don't have to do this really anymore. But if you terminate, it's part of owning a business. If you do that, most of the time, I think people realize the people you think are going to be the hardest, they know. They walk in and you go, hey, got it. I always keep it super simple. I think even if you're letting somebody go, everybody you know deserves to have that. You're not going to say you suck, I hate you, and everybody hates you. You need to get out of here. It's not working out. I never even like to get into specifics because they know. You know, they know. So again, luckily I don't have to do that very often. And we don't have to. I mean, the people we've terminated, it's not very many people, but usually they weed themselves out. It's not. You don't have to have a sit down.
It's an interesting thing because we talk about this a lot too, where I would say I probably lean more on that end where I would just say, hey, it's not working out, zero specifics, nothing else. But sometimes Tom will say, like, I feel like they need to know why so that there's closure for them and it can be a learning experience for them.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, for me, it's not about closure with them. I just want to say it's not working out.
I'll sit down with a generic reason and I'll say, maybe it's the person is just not providing the level of customer service, the details that you want, let's just say, and say, hey, it's not working out. I don't think you're up to standards. And if I'm prepared, they almost never do, but if they put, well, I don't understand, I'm doing that. Well, let me give you these examples. And so if they want me to get into it, I'd get into it. Yeah. I do think people deserve that, you know, but then now there's just, everybody's so litigious and everything. It's like, you know, now that we're forming this broader hospitality company, we have an HR consultant. And, you know, they had to terminate somebody at Ember. It wasn't even a termination. The guy put in his resignation, but he wanted to finish a term. It was like, here's the law, you know, and they send us this email. And so obviously you're going to comply with whatever regulations and all that are out there. But at the end of the day, whether you're terminating somebody or hiring them or they're working for you, just treat everybody like you wanted to be treated if you were in the same position. Yes. And I think that, you know, we try to preach that to our managers. Like, I see a lot of restaurant managers that are really good to the guests and really, really just the most outwardly like nice people in the world, and they treat their staff like garbage, or they treat their vendors like garbage. And that's, to me, like, you know, I never want to tolerate that in any of our restaurants. You should treat everybody with the same level of hospitality. We're all partners, and that stuff catches up to you. You know, it's karma, whatever you want to call it. Like, be nice to every. What is that whole? My grandma used to say, "It's free to be nice." You know, just be nice.
Yep.
Unless somebody spits at you, and then you don't have to be nice to them.
That's insane that someone would spit.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, you're going to deal with. We've had thousands and thousands of employees. I mean, go walk on the street. You can vet people as good as you can, and there's still going to be people that, you know, they're just kind of nuts at the end of the day.
Yeah, I had somebody ask me who was hiring a bunch of people recently and say, "Have you ever had somebody who's incredibly good charismatically?" But they're administratively, they're a disaster. And I just like laughed. I was like, I think anybody who's ever owned a business has felt that.
It's two different skill sets almost, you know, and you know, that's one thing I never want to put employees in a position where they're going to fail because I ask them to do something they can't do. Like this is silly now because it's 10 years ago in social media, everybody has their own social media person. But we were asking our managers to do that, and they weren't doing it well. And it was like, what am I going to be mad at them? I didn't hire this guy for Instagram posts. So we've outsourced it. I'm not going to put something that they can't do into their hands. And, I think that's important to put people in a position where they can succeed. I will say one thing about whether it's hiring or whatever now, I don't know ever since COVID what happened, but in every line of work, it seems you see this. People just ghost you now. It's like they will spend 30 minutes setting up an interview and then just never show up, or go through the interview, get hired, and then never show up again. Yeah. It's just completely bizarre. I think it's probably the phones, like it's easy to not answer a text or whatever. And so now people just carry that onto their real life where they can just not face their issues or problems or whatever. But see that a lot.
I think that happens to us a lot too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's crazy. I don't understand it. Why waste your time with the interview? I don't get it.
Right.
Yeah. What's a typical day in the life for you now? Like what's that looking like?
There's no typical day necessarily. A lot of times, I'm the backstop if anything really bad was to happen. Oh, the AC's out or whatever.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, my job has shifted from, I used to go in and I'd have a list of tasks, and I would feel accomplished if at the end of the day I crossed off enough of those tasks or more than I got added to my list. And now it feels like a lot of my job is pushing a boulder up a hill a little bit every day. Yeah. Whether it's a new project or whatever.
It's a good analogy.
Yeah, you're not.
I feel that
You're not getting that you have to make the satisfaction in the progress and not those. We opened Denver. We had a big party, and there's all these people, and they're like, "Man, you must be so like." I'm like, I don't even feel relieved. I don't feel anything. I just feel like it's like it's just a
progress.
Yeah, it's like you're still just pushing this down the road, and I think that's a lot of it is just trying to push these new projects down the road, trying to make sure you don't neglect any of your children, any of your restaurants. Sometimes, I feel with Saluda, sometimes it's like, hey, they're a fine-tuned machine. They don't need me at all, but you got to check in every once in a while, make sure everybody's doing well. And, I'm probably in the restaurants, all of them once a week, but almost never during dinner service a lot of times, which is something that I make it a point, like, hey, let's go there, let's have a drink, let's look around, whatever it is, just to kind of make sure you know what's going on. But we're lucky to have great management, and that's really where it's at, is let the people do their jobs that you hired them to do.
That's a good point. Do you rarely cook at home? Do you and your wife just always kind of grab something from one of the restaurants?
No, I get called to cook maybe 2-3 times a week, and sometimes I'm really feeling it and I really like to do it. Yeah. And sometimes I'm not doing this today. We probably get more takeout than we should, probably like everybody, but I enjoy cooking. I mean, I really enjoy it. I don't enjoy cleaning up, so we have a deal. I cook, my wife cleans, and we're going on to the beach next week, and I'll cook for everybody 3, 4, 5 of the nights, and I really enjoy doing it. But it's sometimes at the end of the day you just don't want to deal with it,
right? Especially after 12 high noons at the golf course.
That's right. Yeah, I won't have 12. I was being facetious there, but
how big's the corporate team? Like, who are your, that's the main people that you're working with, and then
So I'll sort of be globally above each restaurant, and I'll have a general manager and a chef. Really deal with the general manager more than the chef because we really don't mess with the chefs on a day-to-day basis. We hire them, we let them. They're talented. We let them do what they're going to do as long as the costs are in line and the product coming out of the kitchen is great. They kind of run their own ship, and I think that's one of the reasons we've been successful having people that stay with us a long time is we don't micromanage that. We deal with the front of house managers and the general managers as needed. What do they need? Obviously, places like Ember that we just opened are going to need a lot more check-in and guidance and things like that. And from the office perspective, so our hospitality group, we have a chief investment officer, which handles sort of the finance part of it, which is, one of the things that when we founded this group is we all have different talents, right? And so I don't have to focus on going and pulling together documents to get financing for your restaurant, which is not my cup of tea. Sure. Not something. It's just not what I want to do. Then we have operations manager who keeps the projects in line. We have a CFO who makes sure that she's bothering everybody about the receipts that don't get scanned in. And so really I'm dealing with those people more on a day-to-day basis and keeping globally everything sort of in line.
And then what is the delay in pressing the gas pedal on, so your model right now is kind of get one going, and then as soon as that's up and running, you're starting the next. Is there any reason? Is it more just leadership capital? Is it financial capital? Is it a little bit of both, or brain space to go stopping somebody or stopping your group from saying we're going to open 5 restaurants?
Yeah, it's all of it. I mean, I got a big whiteboard in my office with 5 different potential acquisitions or builds we're looking at.
Oh,
and
nice.
a lot of times, that's one of the parts where you have to, that I've had to change my sort of job satisfaction quotient, where it's like it's my friends in the commercial real estate space, like I could relate to them a lot in this. Like, you pursue 100 deals and only one works, and so you burn. So kind of figuring out, like, when do you turn on the fire hose of your attention on something if it really has legs. And so we constantly are looking at stuff. We tried to start doing more acquisition of existing restaurants where we could value add, go in and take something that was good.
Kind of look at their numbers. And
Exactly.
See what,
and we could bring our expertise and beef it up. Those prove harder, more complicated. A lot of times when people own a restaurant, they say they want to sell it and they kind of can't. It's personal attachment. And so those are a little longer term things, but we've got a couple of those we're working on. And then the builds are way more intensive, right? And so that's like, again, a year plus project. And so you have to be very, very intentional about what you're going to pursue, or you're just going to burn, I could burn 40 hours a week looking at real estate. And so I try to not do that. So we really, for the brand new stuff, it's like, what is an idea that we like Italian right now? We're going to do an Italian high-end concept. We just haven't figured out where that goes.
Sure.
Maybe it's the Northeast. Who knows?
There we go.
There's stuff that's bubbling out there, and you just try to find the right box to put it in.
And is your guys' focus primarily Columbia, like Midlands? Is that?
Yeah, so we have some franchise stuff that we have out of state, and we're working on some stuff that's like regional, like across the Southeast. But for my particular stack, it is a hours and a proximity thing.
Right.
If we went and bought a restaurant in Palm Beach, Florida, how the heck am I going to manage that, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully we're going to grow to that point where we're able to expand more regionally. But so we're focused on Columbia more right now because of that bandwidth issue. That's awesome. Like we've got a restaurant we're looking at acquiring right now has 2 units that, all right, well, I'm not going to be there managing. So who's going to do that? And if it's not from our existing infrastructure, who do we have to bring in? And for me, it's just easier for everybody to fold under one umbrella so that it's just not, again, having this guy on an island that you have to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And what about the idea of buying into one of your businesses?
Sure.
Do you entertain that with a manager who's been with you for 20 years, or is it a certain number of a dollar number?
Absolutely. I mean, we have multiple partnerships like that with managers. And I think that, I had a meeting with a guy yesterday that works for a tangential company that we were affiliated with, and he's getting to the point in his life where he wants to have some equity and some ownership in something, and so we're trying to, if it's the right person, you're going to go try to. Sometimes you might do a concept just to fit the person that you think is talented, that you want to keep with your team. So that happens all the time, and if I'm going to borrow $1 million to build a restaurant, I'm certainly not going to give you 30% of it because you're a nice guy.
Right.
But if the $1 million gets paid back and you're the one who worked hard to make it happen, you deserve a piece of that company if that was the deal that went in. So that's kind of the structure that we usually do. If somebody's not bringing capital, they're going to work at it. Debt's repaid. Hey, they made it happen, so they deserve the upside of it.
Can you walk me through that a little bit more, because we're really interested in that. I see it in the law world a lot.
Yep.
Where you have to go 5 years, then junior partner, then senior partner, then equity partner, and you have to buy in. But in the restaurant space, or even in our industry, I don't really know how that works well.
Well, every deal is different, right? I mean, you can structure it infinite ways, but like the most basic structure would be, hey, you're a chef. You want to come work for me? You got an idea for a restaurant? Great. I've got a lot of expertise that you don't have. I'll set up everything. You focus on that. We're going to borrow $1 million, and we're going to pay it back. Our structure looks like we're going to pay it back in 4.5 years. At the end of the 4.5 years, we'll start taking distributions. You'll have whatever we agreed on, 25-30% that you own. You'll start getting 25 to 30% of those distributions, in addition to your salary that you're already you're already getting. And so, to me as an owner, like the upside there for me is like, that person deserves it.
They're built in. They're not going anywhere. They're gonna love it,
and they made it happen.
Yeah.
They're the ones that made the place successful enough to be able to pay back the debt. And I used to think I needed to own 100% of everything. I had a partner at the beginning at Saluda's, and it did not work well. I was like, there's no way you can ever have partners in the restaurant business. And then you sort of get further, and you realize like you can go further together than you can alone, kind of thing, right? And I'd rather own 30% of a $5 million company than 100% of $1 million company.
Right.
And I hope that math worked out. I think it did. Yeah. But so, and that's the idea is like, let's grow this thing. Let's make it bigger. And even if you're sharing equity it just gives everybody more of an incentive to push this thing forward, and it gives people growth. I think a lot of people in the restaurant business, they hit the ceiling really quick. And if you're the chef at Longhorn and you're making $95,000, like, what are you really going to do? You're going to go make 110, at, somewhere else. But giving people, I tell them it's an infinite ceiling. Like if this thing blows up and we open 100 of these, you can make $100 million doing this. Right. Cross my fingers that happens one day, because it means I'll be along for the ride.
Yeah. So if they get 30% when it gets paid off, is there ever a scenario where after 10 years they get 35% or 40%, or do you generally just have it at the very beginning set, and then as it comes to fruition,
I would think that for us, I think that would complicate it. I think that if you say, hey, let's finish this, you have 30%, let's go do another one. And you can grab another 30% of the next one or whatever, or depending on how involved or skilled, or if it's a not a celebrity chef, but a chef who, like, he's going to open a place and it's going to be amazing no matter what.
Right.
Well, that's a lot more valuable, right, than just hiring a guy and bringing him along. You're going to train him to do what you want to do. So again, the situations there's an infinite number of ways to do it, but the cleanest way, I think, is hand somebody equity after the thing is paid off, and it's a now free and clear cash flow generating asset that you're going to participate in the distributions, and they can participate as well. But a lot of people do profit sharing. Hey, if you hit these marks, you'll get X percentage. But I find that those people get turned off on that because the metrics always move. Yeah. Oh, well, we made 100,000 last year, but now, exactly. So I think, just straight up equity, it also gives them even when it's not paid off and they're not participating in the distributions, and they look at the P&Ls and the cash flow, and they're a lot more likely to say, okay, maybe we don't need that $1,000 table, because that's going to come out of the bottom line. So it gives them some buy-in to that as well.
Yes, nice. Are there particular training platforms you guys use? Like, do you do any digital training or watch these videos to understand our company's core values or any of that stuff?
No, fortunately, we're not there yet. I hate that stuff. I think it's so hard to say, here's what everybody needs to do, especially in the restaurant space, because it's different every day, every customer and all that. It's almost like you give people sort of this broad, here's our culture. Here's what we want you, how we want you to treat people. I mean, I always tell people, I used to tell people when I did lineups for servers, like, hey, go around the restaurant, take a look, go to the bathrooms, take a look. Imagine that you were going to have your grandmother over to dinner at your house, and you're meeting your girlfriend's parents or whatever it is. You wouldn't want the trash can to be full, or
I just did that analogy.
Yeah. I mean, and take that pride to people. I mean, I'm reading this book, or rereading this book by Danny Meyer, and, one of the things they say is you can train people in the details. You can train people on how to open a bottle of wine or whatever, but you can't train the innate sort of pleasing personality. And so if you can get that out of people, and when you hire them and say, like, this person, is one of the things with Ember. People would come in and be like, they give us this feedback, like, server didn't really know how to open the bottle of wine right. There was a little gaps in service, but man, everybody was so friendly. Everybody you hit talked to, and that matters way more than the other stuff. And that's the part that I think you have to hire towards, that skill set, not necessarily sometimes you'll hire a server that is worked for 25 years in steakhouses and seems to check all the boxes, and you realize that they just they do it their way and they don't care about your other way. So it's just a dance, right? But no, I'm giving you long answers to short questions, but no, we don't have any training videos. Besides, like, we do tips training for like alcohol service and things like that. It's more of a standardized thing. And then they do like Serve Safe, which is like the kitchen safety kind of deal.
Yep. Do you involve any of your family in the biz? Like kids, wife?
My wife and I found a long time ago we don't work well together. I'm kind of a control person, and she doesn't like to be controlled by me. And I'm also we had our sons. I have 18, 20-year-old boys. They worked in the restaurant a little bit, like as busboys and things like that. And I just never wanted it to be, hey, here's my son. He's going to work for us. Right. And so they've worked in the family business a little bit. But they've never really gotten as deep. And probably I look back, I've got an 18-year-old going to college. I sat down with him last night, and I was like, I kind of wish I would have made you work more, because I had to work a lot when I was a kid. And but all you can do as a parent is try to do the absolute best you can and cross your fingers and hope it all works out. But I always like to keep that space, honestly, between family and business.
Nice. That's good. Are they bringing girlfriends around the house?
Absolutely. Well, the 13-year-old daughter's the problem.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know, I'll wake up and not wake up, but I was watching TV in our living room. We were on a hill, and I looked out, and there was like 8 boys in our front yard like a week ago. I was like, Gloria, what are these kids doing in the front yard? And she goes, I don't know. I said, will you go say hello to them or whatever so they'll leave? And she goes, no, they can stay. She says something about
build the roster.
Something about aura, and then she walks away. But the boy is like, you know, like we've had like Creighton has taken one of his girlfriends like up to Saluta's, and that's probably a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah.
He won't admit it to me, but it's probably pretty cool for him.
Yeah. First date, that would be a big flex.
Now do you-
Taking him to Saluta's.
Well,
on their
now do
first
you give
date.
him like a tab? Does he just say like, "Hey, put that on my tab"? Or are you making him throw the credit card on it?
That's my credit card anyway. So no, usually, like our family, we'll sign. Like Saluta's has been there for a long time. My wife had dinner there last night with some friends. She'll sign for a tab and tip the server. But like,
Gotcha, yeah.
you know, with Ember, like the new thing, we would go in there and I was like, it's a brand new business. I don't want to hurt the cash flow, so I'm paying for everything.
Right,
and then,
right.
you know, my partner and I sat down in the office and we're like, I think we might need to get a house account. Trying dragging people out there and spending $1,000 because it is a marketing thing, right? If I
Right.
take you guys out there and
Right,
introduce you to the
right.
restaurant, it's not just for me having fun. It's also to kind of
Yeah,
market
yeah.
the place. So
Yeah, for sure. That's great. I had a couple more here. So, overall, just vision for how many restaurants. Like, do you have a number in mind that you're shooting for, or kind of just like stay busy, head down, enjoy the ride?
I don't have a particular goal in the number of restaurants. I mean, I think that if we had 7 to 10, that seems like a good number. That would be, you know, you could build up. There's some metrics in the restaurant business about like,
Or
if
like
you-
selling, or
exactly about the multiples you'd get on sales. And I'm not focused on that at all, but and I'm 45 years old. My ultimate goal, I don't know if it's 5. My daughter has 5 more years in school till she goes to college. I don't know if it's 5 years from now or 10 years from now, but I'm going to open a bar in, I don't know if it's the British Virgin Islands or the Bahamas. It's going to be called Scuba Steve's, and that's my retirement plan. And if the bartender calls in sick, I will open Red Stripes for tourists all day long.
That's great.
You know, I think that's one good thing about sort of the hospitality business is you can stay in it for a long time. It's not really work if you're doing something you love. That sounds so
Yeah.
cheesy, but you know, that's kind of that's one of the reasons why we started focusing on opening up a bunch of stuff. I've got 5-10 years left to kind of push forward, and then hopefully all these things live on, you know,
sure.
and you know, maybe I'm dropping into Saluta's and flying back from the Bahamas and dropping into Saluta's in
Right.
20 years from now.
Right.
Who knows?
And then at each of your restaurants, and just give us a few here. What's your favorite dish? Like
Yeah.
if you were to go to Ember, what's your go-to? If you go to Saluta's, what's your go-to?
So I'll start in chronological order here. Saluta's, the pork chop we have is the best pork chop in the country. I mean, it's unbelievable. Now it's 2,000 calories probably if you eat the whole plate, but it's really, really good. Chef Toby does an unbelievable job with that. It's amazing. The pizza at El Bocado, I mean, any of the pizzas are fine. I'm a pepperoni guy. I keep it simple, you know. But I also like the Bocado, which has all the vegetable, like, you know, the peppers and onions and all that on it.
What about the pear and bacon? I feel like that.
I don't get into the funky pizzas as much.
Really?
I'd have a slice of that. You know, we
Yeah,
have
yeah.
a Brussels sprouts and balsamic pizza
Yeah.
that, like, I'm like, we tested that out. I'm like, nobody's gonna. It's people buy it all the time.
sounds
And people,
amazing.
People like to buy cheese and a pepperoni and then one of the random pizzas
Right.
to kind of
Yep.
have.
That's the
And,
go-to, yeah.
And then Arroyo, like that was a restaurant we opened to try to keep, like, it's almost like revert back. Now you go to Mexican restaurants and there's a million. By the way, I didn't realize till we opened one. There's a million Mexican restaurants in Columbia, South
there
Carolina.
are a lot.
But we try to bring that to basics where it's like, you know, I really like the chicken enchiladas. Like that's again, a lame answer probably, but it's just really good. Like that's
Basic,
that's what I want. I want chicken enchiladas. I want a margarita, and I want chips and salsa. And then Ember, the steaks are all great, but we have a short rib dish that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It'll be on the menu for 20 years. That's we could almost open
It
a
sells
restaurant.
out though.
Yeah.
I think I tried to order and it was
Good.
sold out.
I hope so. Well, then we need to make more of them. But that's a dish where I feel like I could open a restaurant just called Short Ribs and just sell that dish,
Yeah,
and it would be unbelievable. But those are some of my favorites.
Nice. Good. Any crazy stories that come to mind? And I think of, like, you know, even in our world, there's stress every day. There's some problem that's happening. Is there any massive ones that you dealt with, or the stories that stand out over the years of dealing with all these,
Well, there's all kind of
like
little
cops or fights?
There's all kind of little stories that are stressful. Like, you know, it's always your busiest Friday night with 250 people in the books, and then the power flips off because a
Right.
breaker, and you're scrambling in the middle of it trying to figure out where the breaker is. And those happen. ACs go out, whatever. My friend Mike that owns Terra said he went to French Laundry one time and the AC was out, and he's like, you're sitting in French Laundry and it's 85 degrees, and he said, I was very happy because I realized, I don't care what this place is. They still have the same problems
Deal with all
everybody
this
else
shit.
does.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe my favorite story is, you remember Thomas Ravenel?
Yeah.
So when he got busted. It was in the state newspaper, state treasurer has cocaine, whatever. He was at Saluta's the night before.
Was he?
And with a beautiful model type girl that kept going back and forth to the bathroom. They were sitting down with some Supreme Court justices. And the next day it said, Thomas Ravenel, the previous night was having dinner at the Tony Columbia Outpost Saluta's restaurant with a group of legislators. And I was like, yes, we made it. This is fantastic.
That's awesome.
I really loved that that affiliation that seemed, look, it was probably bad for Thomas Ravenel and his family, but I was like, you know what? That's
great.
It's not a bad spot to be, I guess.
That's awesome.
That's good. My last question is about your golf handicap.
Yeah.
How's that looking?
What's it look like over the years?
7.3 last year, and I'm up
Wow.
to a 9.7. I made too many new restaurants probably, but I go try to break 80 every time I play, and it very rarely happens. But I feel like if I could get down to solid 6 or so, but I just don't practice enough, and I don't like to practice.
Yeah.
So
you don't like the range sessions? I like a good range session.
Like today, I could go out there and pound balls today. I'm just going to go play, and then you don't ever really tend to figure it out on the golf course, and so
Right.
I can still beat half the guys I play with. That's good enough for me. So, and I enjoy it. I'd play golf every day, I think, if I could.
That's awesome.
Not when it's 95 degree every day, but yeah.
And how do you want people to support you?
Yep.
Yeah, just come to the restaurants, check them out. I like to think we do a good job at all of our places, and so we have, 3 downtown, and then the new restaurant in Lexington, and we'll be announcing a new seafood restaurant in downtown Columbia really soon. As soon as the buzz from Ember wears down a little bit, we'll announce the next one. That's awesome. We want to be known for if something's under our umbrella, you're gonna know it's great quality, and you know what to expect when you walk in the door.
Yeah, great.
This has been great. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all very much.
Appreciate it.
Enjoyed it.
Good stuff.
We're here for the health of it.
For the health of it.